Sir, I'm starting.
Yeah.
असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय
मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय
असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति।
Yeah, very good afternoon to all of you. I'm CMA Yoginder Pal Singh, Secretary to the Sustainability Standard Board of the Institute of Cost Accountants of India. I welcome you all to this sixth webinar of the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam series organized by the Sustainability Standard Board of the Institute. And the topic for today's webinar is Fostering Social Economy through Social Stock Exchange. And to undertake this interesting session, we have with us Mr. Shyam Kumar, who is our distinguished speaker for today. So before I hand over the session to our distinguished speaker, I would like to give a brief introduction of him to all the participants. Mr. Shyam Kumar is an experienced company secretary and legal compliance professional with around 27 years of post-qualification experience. Being a science graduate, BSc in chemistry, he qualified as company secretary in December 1996 and completed his LLB in the year 2000 from the Kerala University. In December 2020, he passed the limited insolvency examination conducted by IBBI and obtained membership as an insolvency professional. During January 2024, he was enrolled as a member of the Institute of Social Auditors of India. In June 2022, he joined SEP and Associates Company Secretaries as lead partner and branch head Trivandrum. Out of 25 years of post-qualification experience with the corporates, around 14 years were with listed companies and he is conversant with LODR and SEBI compliances. He has proved his ability in handling secretarial and legal matters of corporates in various sectors, including manufacturing, telecom, NBFC, etc. Majority of them in the listed entities. He handled the IPO of Credit Access Grameen Limited with the issue size of rupees 1100 crores in 2018. He was instrumental in drafting, finalizing and implementing ESOP schemes in two listed companies, including obtaining required stock exchange approvals. He had been in key managerial positions in listed companies with wide stock holdings and was instrumental in implementing high corporate governance standards in the respective companies. He has experience in handling high competitive boards of the companies like ELGI Equipments Limited, Coimbatore, Muthoot Capital, Kochi, and Credit Access Grameen, Bangalore. He was involved in the takeover of overseas companies by the Indian listed entities. He was head of legal department and handled legal matters in lower courts, high courts, supreme courts, NCLT and TDSAT, etc. He had been closely associated with the ICSI Institute and was the chairman of ICSI coaching chapter during the year 2016. So we are very grateful to you for taking out time of your busy schedule and kindly agreeing to address all the participants during this webinar. And before I hand over it to sir, I would like to inform all the participants that at the end of this session, we will be taking up your queries on the topic. So please do post your queries in the chat box. So over to you, sir.
Thank you, Yoginder ji. Good evening, all. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Ranjit, Yoginder, and Dr. Ashish for giving me this opportunity to address the esteemed members of Institute of Cost and Management Accountants of India. So this is the first time I think I'm attending a program. I'm taking a session for this cost accountants. So Yoginderji, you will be putting the slides for me. Okay, so the topic for the day is fostering social economy through social stock exchange. I am fully aware that I'm addressing eminent and senior members of cost accountants. So I have tried to uh, put up the slides from slides and put up the matters from your angle rather than from a different one like a company secretary or a chartered accountant. So next slide, please. So the theme of this session, I would like to go through like this. First, we'll see the overview of the social sector in India, the importance, the recent importance that it has gained because of the G20 sustainability development goals and all. Then we'll touch upon the requirement of social capital for attainment of our social goals. Before going into social stock exchange, we'll discuss what are the opportunities that the cost accountants have in this area. Then we'll understand how the social stock exchange has been formed in India and how the procedures, how listing can happen in that social stock exchanges, how capital can be raised out of this social stock exchanges, and miscellaneous provisions we'll touch upon. This is the broad scheme of the session that I have planned. Next slide, please. Okay. So, social sector in India. We'll talk about social sector in India alone. What we think about social sector when there are a lot of definitions that comes up, but in this scenario, we can be confined to refer to those sets of activities which contribute to human capital formation and human development, such as education, health, medical care, water supply and sanitation, housing, etc. So basically, this sector aims at addressing the gap in the sectors like education, healthcare, sanitation, environment, etc. And that is the main focus of social sector. Ancillary activities include conducting research-based advocacy and feeding into better informed programs across population. Then another area is forming think tank organizations with a right-based approach to address social issues. So, so this social sector is very important in our economy, and they are contributing much towards the improvement of human conditions. Now, many of the people will be knowing about SDGs, SDGs, Paris Agreement, and all that. As you know, Paris Agreement was entered into in 2015, where 196 countries together joined to resolve to attain certain goals with regard to sustainable development. So out of which there is an agenda for 2030, which they have agreed. whereby there are agendas, there are 17 agenda items that have been set for attaining during 2030, and they were all the countries are aggressively working towards that goals, and India is the forerunner for that. If you have followed the G20 presidentship that we had this year, uh, um, every focus was on these 17 core areas, which we call it SDGs. Based on this, India has set targets for implementation of SDG, and it has aligned its national development agenda also based on this 17 SDGs. So for this, lot of capital is required, for which collaboration between government and public sector and civil society is of high importance. Actually, next slide. So, um, for attainment of this 2030 goals, the amount that is required runs into lakhs and crores. That is, an estimate is around 4 lakh crores that is required for attainment of this SDGs, out of which public sector, that is the government funding, currently the main sources of funding for these activities are public funding, that is the government funding, then private sector funding to a great extent, then the new things that the new area that has come up is the CSR funds that was mandated from 2015 upon the amendment of the Companies Act 2013, where corporates are required to fund for spend on corporate social responsibility items that are mentioned in the Companies Act. For your information, we have around 30 lakh NPOs in India. So these NPOs are involved in all the social activities in the country. Many of them are not focused, I would say. Very little, very minimum number of NGOs are only focused on their objectives. That is what we could make out. And so the demand for money, the demand for capital for obtaining this SDG goals is far short. We will not, under the current scenario, it is estimated that it is very difficult to achieve the goals by 2030. You cannot rely on this CSR funds, mostly because CSR funds are not much. Second thing is that as per the Companies Act itself, the company has to spend the CSR in their local areas only. So it is confined to certain areas and it is not spread across. So the NGOs which are in some remote area where corporates are not there, they will not be having any affinity for this type of funds. So that the requirement of a common platform for raising capital for the social sector was thought out, and the concept of social stock exchange came into being because of that. So private sectors increasingly investing in social sectors through financial instruments. So now after this um, 2015, the requirement of social services has gained momentum. Particularly if you are aware of, I am sure that all of you are aware of the CSG norms and all that, which has created a lot of awareness for importance of environment, sustainability, all that angles. So nowadays this business is not valued only based on the profits, but also the orientation of the company towards environment, sustainability, profitability. Then comes the profitability angle. So the social sector, the importance of social sector has improved uh, 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 during these uh, uh, during these days, basically. So next slide. Yeah. social capital. So this next, can you take this next slide? So based on this capital requirement, our government has introduced the concept of social stock exchange. Actually, the concept of social stock exchange was introduced in Brazil first globally. Then some other 7 models were also introduced in different countries. In 2019 budget, our finance minister, as part of the budget speech of 2019-20, proposed the idea of electronic fundraising platform, the social stock exchange, under the regulatory ambit of SEBI. So we had 7 models, which could have been approved by us, but we thought of a different model. Different model in the sense we had a robust financial market here. So the idea was to link the social stock exchange also on the on our stock market platforms. I have next slide. I will briefly, this is the scenario, a global scenario. I just thought of putting that in a slide. The only 3 social stock exchanges that are working now are marked in yellow: Canada, Singapore, and Jamaica. All the other 4 models fail. So in India, a social stock exchange means it is a separate platform, a separate segment in our recognized stock exchange, which is having nationwide terminals, permitted to register, especially NPOs, and to list the securities as per the SEBI regulations. So here in India, we have designed it in such a way that it is part of the existing stock markets. It is a separate platform, separate segment. So the regulator is the same. All other infrastructure remains the same, but this is a different platform altogether. And also they have set up procedures that are creating measurable positive. There are norms for registering the NPOs. That we'll handle it in a later slide. Here, the difference between normal stock market and stock exchange and the social stock exchange is that here there is a procedure for registration. In other stock exchange, there is no procedure for registration. You can straight away equity or debt instruments. You can straight away file the documents and get it listed in the stock exchanges. Here, in social stock exchanges, there is a procedure called registration where the minimum norms required are specified by SEBI under the regulations. And once you qualify that norms, you can register your NPO or FPO, for profit organization or non-profit organization, in the stock exchange platform. Once you are registered, the obligations for proper transparency, like filing of returns, filing of information regarding the projects, everything will come into play. It is not required that you list your project or social activity in the stock exchange. The obligation starts upon registration itself. So SEBI has also mandated what are the minimum requirements and all. This the social stock exchange, our BSE as well as NSE has come out with this platform immediately after this was announced. Not announced, but it was notified. And we have 2 social stock exchanges now in India. One is the NSE Social Stock Exchange and the BSE Social Stock Exchange. So this is basically an opportunity for non-profit organizations which are basically into this social sector to raise funds. Earlier they didn't have a common platform. Now they are given a common platform. Next slide, please. So I have put one slide. This is the journey of SSEs in India. As I mentioned earlier, 19th September 2019, the Constitution of Working Committee. After the budget speech of Finance Minister, committees were formed, and finally, on 25th July 2022, the major activity happened. That is, amendments were made to the SEBI ICBR regulations, introducing social stock exchange, the disclosure requirements, and all that stuff. Then SEBI LODR regulations were amended on the same day, so that the disclosure requirements under LODR was made applicable with modifications to the social stock exchange. Then alternate investment scheme funds were also modified. Then there was amendment to the Securities Contract Regulation Act also, whereby securities included, it was zero coupon, zero principal bond, which is usually the instrument that is being listed in social stock exchange, were classified as securities under the Securities Contract Regulation Act. So the main thing regarding social stock exchanges happened in 25th July 2022, and subsequently in December 2023 there were certain amendments also, which also we will deal. So based on these activities, National Stock Exchange as well as BSE came up with separate segment of social stock exchange, namely NSE Social Stock Exchange and BSE Social Stock Exchange. Next. So before venturing into this social stock exchange details, how this functions, how listing happens, how registration happens, I thought we'll just see what are the opportunities that are available for cost accountants with regard to the implementation of this social stock exchange. First and the foremost is getting registered as a social impact assessor. It is actually earlier it was called social auditor. Now during December 23, the name of social auditor was changed to social impact assessor, because they want to change. They don't want a negative kind of an impression as an auditor. They want to make it as social impact assessor. So you as cost accountant is eligible for becoming a social impact assessor. National Institute of Securities Markets is conducting the examination for that. It is the materials are available. As a cost accountant, you are immediately eligible for getting appearing for the examination, as well as getting membership in the Institute of Social Auditors of India. So then that is a great opportunity because there are many continual disclosures, audit, impact assessment, certifications, preparation of documents, everything that is there, which you as a practicing cost accountant, or if you are in employment, your company or the group may be having these type of activities as a society or a trust or a Section 8 company, where you can take up all these activities. It will be very easy for you to once you pass that examination. Then second is evaluation of enterprise and conducting feasibility study. So as a practicing company, a practicing cost accountant, somebody may come to you and ask you whether I have a trust, I have a society, we are looking for raising capital, whether I can go to social stock exchange. These you can very well help them by understanding the nuances of the basic requirements for registering in a social stock exchange, and you can advise your client. That is an emerging area. Then you can assist the social enterprises in preparing the FRD, fundraising document, and related documents. Here in social stock exchange, like any other listing, merchant bankers are not required for filing the documents with social stock exchange. you directly can file it, and for that purpose, a cost accountant can definitely help the enterprise in preparing the fundraising documents, the history of the company, the details of the promoters, the details of shareholding, if there is shareholding, then the activities that have been done by the organization for the past minimum 3 years is required. So these type of things you can collate and prepare the fundraising documents for your clients. Then assessment of annual impact report. The enterprise that is listed or registered will have to submit to the stock exchanges an annual impact report. It is mandated that the annual impact report should be audited by a social impact assessor. So that is also an audit area that is emerging. Then continuous consultation for registering and listing of this social enterprises. Post listing functions, you can very well help the social enterprise. Then ensuring sustainability of the listed entity. So once the project is listed in social stock exchange, continuous disclosures are required. Then your performance will be monitored. Transparency is there. All information regarding your projects will be there on record. The filing of these things, everything can be undertaken by you as a cost audit, cost accountant. Then future opportunities. This is we are foreseeing these type of activities, because definitely when you have this mechanism of a stock exchange, there are different players that are involved. The disputes between these players will come up, and majority of the things will be arbitrable, and so that will also be another area that is emerging, that we presume that it is emerging maybe 5 years down the line. So arbitration and mediation may be another area that CMA can look forward. So now we will go to the participants, go to the details of social stock exchange. It is the social stock exchange, like any other stock exchange, has a lot of participants involved, including trading members. Then here the kind of companies that is going for social stock exchange are divided into two. One is an NPO, that is a non-profit organization, which can be a Section 8 company. It can be a society under the Central Act. It can be a society under the State Act. It can be a trust under Central Act. It can be a trust under a State Act, or any other forms of organization that SEBI may specify. So these are the organizations that fall within, that are there in the chain. For-profit organizations can also become part of social stock exchange once you fall in the category, or you become eligible for that. Then market infrastructure institutions, we know stock exchanges, clearing houses, depositories. Everybody who are associated with the other exchanges will also be part of this stock exchange. Then social impact assessors, that cost accountants, company secretaries, chartered accountants, and all, who have passed the examination and attained membership, they will be part of the whole chain. Then information repositories, which provides accurate and timely information regarding the projects, that they are also forming part of the whole chain. Then of course the regulator is SEBI, as I mentioned earlier. Then comes the investors. Now we'll see why social stock exchange. What is the requirement of a social stock exchange? This points, majority of the things I have already told you. To meet the investment demands of the social development sector, the requirement of social capital, I have mentioned, the gap is very huge. So there is a huge demand for social capital. I think to a certain extent, the social stock exchange will help in raising that kind of a capital. To solve the fund crunch faced by social enterprises, majority of the social enterprises are facing a fund crunch. They work based on what they get rather than going for big projects and all. This fund shortage is a big issue. Then the synergy between investor and investee in social aims. So if you have money and you want to invest in some social activities, now now there is no mechanism by which you can identify a particular project or activity. So now in this platform, all the projects will come up where you can invest at your as you like. Then once you are in the SSC platform, transparency and accountability is automatically in what you call transparency and accountability already there in the system. Whereby once you get registered, you will have to give information regarding the projects and all. If you cannot, the same principles that are applied under Regulation 30 of SEBI LODR with regard to materiality and disclosure requirements. You should have a policy whereby any material information with regard to the project needs to be disclosed to the stock exchange. So that information will become public and you will be aware of what is happening in the project. Then it is a performance-based philanthropy where when you attain the social impact that you have anticipated, you have a better edge than other projects for raising further capital. So and invest. So the basic thing that regarding social stock exchange that should be kept in mind is that when you talk about exchange, the thing that comes to our mind is you are an investor, so you'll get some sort of a return or anything like that. Here it is nothing like that. It is just a donation. And the thing is that earlier the donations you should when you give a donation, you will take a receipt and then go. You will not know what has happened to your money. But here in the social stock exchange, you will know what is happening to the project, whether the intended benefit is produced out of that project, that you will know. That is performance-based philanthropy. Then objectives of social stock exchange. This also we have already covered. Regulated platform that brings together social enterprises and donors. So now, before social stock exchange, the donors were not able to identify their required projects. But here, both these social enterprises and donors come together in this platform. Enabling mechanism to ensure robust standards of social impact and financial reporting. Apart from financial reporting, you will have to also report on the social impact of the project continuously. So that is a good mechanism. Facilitate funding and growth of social enterprises. So as I mentioned earlier, social enterprises which are devoid of funds, this is the fantastic facility for getting funds for genuine projects. So functions of SSCs like listing, trading, settlement of shares, bonds, and other financial instruments of non-profit organizations. Instead of solely the profit and loss account, the listed company in SSC are required to demonstrate social and environmental impact reporting in addition to the traditional financial reporting. If you are working in a listed company, you know each quarter you will have to give the financial reporting. It is only the financial reporting that you have given. But here, the social enterprises, they will, apart from financial reporting, they will also have to report as to the impact that the social activity is giving. Then, social stock exchange provides a set of procedures that act as a filter. So, a new donor that is coming to the social stock exchange can analyze whether this social enterprises is good or bad. So, because already the information with regard to the projects they have handled are already there in the records. So, it will be easy for a new investor to assess a particular social enterprise. Then SSEs provides the guidelines and code of conduct for such organizations aiming towards social intent. So same thing. Since returns are filed, material information are filed with stock exchanges, everything will be available there so that a fresh investor or a current investor know where his money is going. So now we come to the important area: who can be onboarded in a social stock exchange? Here you as cost accountants can give good advice to social enterprises whether they are eligible for a listing in a social stock exchange. The main concept is social stock exchange permitted securities by social enterprises. First, the concept of social enterprise comes. Social enterprise to be onboarded provided they establish a primacy of social intent. So the main thing is simply social enterprises cannot get onboarded. Social enterprises which establish a primacy of a social intent, they should work towards a social intent. What is a social intent? Next slide. Uh, they should establish that they are working towards any of the 17 broad activities listed by SEBI. With the amendment of SEBI ICDR regulations, SEBI has come out with certain areas which is similar to the SDG goals. 17 broad activities has been listed. So the enterprises should be working on that any particular item under that 17 item broad activities. Secondly, they should be working. They will be focusing on underprivileged population or geographical areas or regions recording lower performance. It is not that you are working in urban areas or for the middle or upper middle class people. You should be focusing on underserved, underprivileged population and regions that are of low recording lower performance. So that is the second main thing that is required. And then the third criteria is 67% of their activities in revenue, expenditure, and beneficiaries should be towards these kind of activities. That is, revenue, 67% of the last 3 financial year average revenue should be from eligible activities. Expenditure for the 67% for the last 3 financial years average expenditure should be for eligible activities, and beneficiaries 67% or more shall be members of the target population. This is the minimum requirement for having a social intent. So when your client's social enterprise is satisfying these conditions, then you can very well say that this is a social enterprise which can be onboarded in the social stock exchange. Then there are other mandatory conditions also which we'll deal with. So this for-profit and not-for-profit organizations we have classified. So the social enterprises which is having a social intent can either be a for-profit enterprise or a non-profit organization. It is very difficult for a for-profit organization to come into that category because of that 67% requirements, revenue, income, and beneficiary. So majority of the listing that has happened, or I would say 100% of the listing that has happened now is by NPOs only. Then we have talked about the social enterprises. Any NPO or FPO who are satisfying that minimum requirement of social enterprise, social intent, can be registered, but there are certain categories which are specifically excluded. One is corporate foundations. You know about Tata Foundation, these kind of corporates which are already getting funds from the particular corporate. That kind of organizations are excluded from the ambit of social stock exchange. Second is the political and religious organizations and their activities. So that political and religious activities cannot come to social stock exchange for raising money. Then professional and trade organizations, our institutes cannot raise funds through social stock exchanges. Then infrastructure and housing companies. Here there is an exception that affordable housing, which falls under the category of that SDG, that has been included, but usual infrastructure and housing companies cannot raise funds through social stock exchange. So, as I mentioned earlier, unlike other listing, listing of equity or debt, here there is an additional requirement that you will have to get registered first before getting your securities or projects listed. Here in social stock exchange, it is not the company that is getting listed; it is the projects are that are getting listed. That differentiation you should be keep it in mind. Here, particular projects are getting listed. So before that, the social enterprises will have to get registered with social stock exchange. The mandatory requirements are in the past financial year, the spending should have been at least 50 lakhs, and funding that they have received should be at least rupees 10 lakhs. And this social enterprises should have a minimum age of 3 years. That is a requirement. You cannot start a fresh society or a trust and immediately go for social stock exchange. You will have to have a minimum track record of 3 years before you go for listing in social stock exchange. The third thing is that the company should have a valid, the social enterprise should have a valid PAN, and the IT registrations under the respective sections of the IT Income Tax Act should be there. 12A, 12AA, 12AB, 80G registrations shall be in place. So such kind of an organization which fulfills the earlier conditions as I mentioned, plus having these documents, and it should be in a valid legal format. It should be a legal entity. It should be a society. It should be a Section 8 company. It should be a trust. This basic documents plus documents proving all these things, you will have to submit to the stock exchange for registration. I am not dealing with registration more because there are certain persons are not entitled to go to social stock exchanges. Who are they? Any promoters, social enterprises, any of whose promoters, group of directors, or selling shareholders or transferees are debarred from accessing the securities market by SEBI. If SEBI has specifically debarred any person who is associated with the social stock exchange, he cannot. The enterprise cannot go for registration. Then any promoter or director of other group companies are debarred by SEBI, then they cannot. And if any of the promoters are in the fraudulent, willful defaulter or fraudulent borrower, they cannot. They are ineligible. If the promoter or director or trustee is a fugitive economic offender, or any promoter or director has been debarred from carrying on activities of raising fund by Ministry of Home Affairs. If these 5 categories have been debarred from accessing the social stock exchange. Social stock exchange. So, what are the securities that can be listed in a social stock exchange? There are under the regulations, it is mentioned about four instruments. One is the zero coupon, zero principal bond, where it is as good as a donation. You will not get any interest. You will not get the principal back. Second thing is donations through mutual fund schemes. Much mutual fund schemes have not come up. Only one HDFC asset management company is having some sort of a mechanism that is also not listed. Then the other kind of securities that are coming up is development impact bonds and the social impact bonds. Many of things are not come up. The listing that has happened is only on zero coupon, zero principal bonds. And SEBI is also empowered to include any type of instrument in this category for listing in social stock exchange. Then we will see what is a zero coupon, zero principal instrument. So NPOs can raise zero coupon, zero principal instrument and list them on social stock exchange. For a particular project, they can raise funds through giving the security called zero coupon, zero principal instrument. The instrument shall be issued only for a specific project. Here is the catch. So the listing happens for that particular project or activity, which is to be completed within the duration that should be mentioned in the fundraising document. The fundraising document will clearly say that we are undertaking this activity, and this activity will be from this year to this year, or within a year. The first listing that has happened raised around 1.8 crores from this social stock exchange, and that was for training of graduates. 10,000 graduates trained for making them employable. So after that thing, this instrument will get exhausted, and listing will it will be expiring. Once the project is done, this securities will expire. You will not get any return out of it. So this security shall be issued in dematerialized form only, and it is non-transferable because of this being in social stock exchange platform. Everybody, majority thinks that you can transfer it and all. No, it is not transferable. It can be issued only in the dematerialized form only. And SEBI has specified the minimum issue size as rupees 50 lakhs. You should raise at least minimum 50 lakhs for a project under this mechanism. And the minimum application size is rupees 10,000. For your information, in July when it was introduced, the minimum size was rupees 1 crore, and the minimum application size was rupees 2 lakhs. In order to attract more people, that minimum size and application size has been reduced to from 2 lakh to rupees 10,000. Then, like any other listing, there is a minimum subscription required. You cannot go for 1 crore rupees and you get only 10 lakhs. That will not be sufficient. You will have to give back the money. There should be a minimum subscription of rupees 75, at least 75% of the money to be raised. So for equity listing and all, it is 90%. Here it is 75%. So in the fundraising document, you will have to mention if the subscription is not acquired. If 100% is not acquired and you are acquiring 75%, what are your plans for that 25%? That you should specifically mention in the fundraising document. And then zero coupon, zero principal bonds will cease to be listed once the objects of the projects are completed and till the expiry of the tenure or till the expiry of the tenure. So it may be for a period of 1 year, 2 years. So once the project is over, or the time period within which you are supposed to have this project is expired, then the tenure, the security will cease to be listed. So these are the basic features of a zero coupon, zero principal instrument. So this is the instrument that has been included as security under the Securities Contract Regulation Act. The definition of securities include zero coupon, zero principal instruments. Then now we will go for listing. So once you apply for registration with the basic documents, as I mentioned earlier, so after assessing all the documents, your social enterprise will get registered with Social Stock Exchange. Once that is done, you have the liberty whether to raise funds or not. Once you are registered, you are in, and you will have to do the regular filings and all. But it is not required that you should necessarily go for listing. But if we go for listing, what are the procedures to be followed? First of all, you will have to make arrangements with the depositories and registrars and share transfer agents regarding for creation of this instrument online under the Depositories Act. All that arrangements needs to be made first. Then this draft fundraising document needs to be prepared. Here is what I told about the role of professionals like cost accountants, where they can very well help the social enterprise in preparing this document, fundraising document. This needs to be filed with the stock exchange as well as published. It will be open for comments also. For 21 days, it will be available for public comments. So you satisfy the comments of social stock exchange. They will come up with queries. You will have to reply to that. And once that observations of social stock exchanges are satisfactorily addressed, social stock exchange will give an in principle approval for the NPO for listing that particular instrument or particular project. That particular project will be approved for listing. So the in principle approval shall be valid for a period of 12 months from the date of issue of the letter. So you have a time of 12 months from the date of in principle approval for raising capital. Then you can, the timing and all, you can decide when that money should be raised. Here, this is the point I have earlier mentioned also. The merchant bankers are not required for drafting. For any listing, equity or debt listing, the main players are the merchant bankers, who will be the link between the regulator and the company. And all the communication with the regulator will be done by the merchant bankers, and they will ensure that the documents are foolproof, statements made in the documents are correct. But here that mechanism is not there, so you can take that responsibility for preparing the fundraising document. So who are the players? Who are the investors? Institutional investors can invest in SSC. Non-institutional investors can invest in SSCs, and then retail investors can also invest. Then comes the responsibility of the social enterprise, listed social enterprise or the registered social enterprise. They will have to make annual disclosures, quarterly disclosures to stock exchange on a regular basis. On a regular basis means if there are certain material information with regard to the project which has an impact on the project, that also needs to be intimated to the social stock exchange promptly. Annual disclosure should be given within 60 days from the end of the financial year. Then annual disclosure means the annual activity of that project needs to be given to the stock exchange. Additionally, stock exchanges may specify matters which shall also be disclosed by NPOs on an annual basis. That can be a project specific kind of a thing, which is very specific to that particular project. That such kind of matters should also be intimated to the stock exchanges on an annual basis. Material disclosure that may have a material impact on the planned achievement of outputs or outcome shall be given within 7 days. In the case of equity listing or debt listing, the time limit is 30 minutes, 12 hours, and 24 hours. Those who are dealing with listed companies may be knowing about these things, but here we have 7 days time. Then the annual impact report. So this social enterprise will have to prepare an annual impact report. This report gives an information about the impact that the particular project has on the society, whether the intended beneficiaries are getting benefited out of this project. This needs to be audited by a social impact assessor. So if you are a social impact assessor, if you are a qualified social impact assessor, this is another area which cost accountants can take up. Then I was talking about annual compliances. Here comes the quarterly compliances of a listed NPOs. A listed NPO shall submit to social stock exchange the following statements in respect of utilization of funds raised on a quarterly basis. This is an important thing. you have raised 2 crores from the market. So each quarter you will have to give report to the stock exchange to how to what extent that amount has been utilized, balance amount where it has been kept, whether separate account has been created. All that stuff you will have to give on a quarterly basis. The unutilized amount shall be kept in a separate bank account and shall not be mingled with other funds of the social social enterprise. So this money that has been raised out of the social stock exchange should be kept in a separate account, and the details needs to be filed on a quarterly basis. The quarterly statement shall be given till the time the issue proceeds have been fully utilized or the purpose of which they are raised has been achieved. Under both, till such time the funds are there or the purpose is fulfilled, you'll have to give the quarterly returns to the social stock exchange. Now, this is for academic interest only. What are the functions of the social stock exchange? That who are controlling the social stock exchange? The management of the social stock exchange is with the SSC governing council. Their functions are enumerated here. That is that we can. Then here, this is the status as on 11/4. The number of registrations that had happened in the social stock exchanges of BSE and NSE. Under BSE, there are 40 registrations, out of which 6 registrations, initial registrations, has expired. In NSE, there are 59 registrations, out of which the initial 4 registrations have expired on 4th April. And listing completed, BSE 2 listing has been completed, and NSE 8 listing has been completed. I think in the next few years we'll be seeing a lot of activities in this area, that is social stock exchange, where I think lot of social enterprise will come up, and there will be good opportunity for professionals like us for helping them in listing, continuous disclosures, impact assessment. As you are aware, this CSR activities are also required for social audit. So, social impact assessor is an eligible person for doing that audit also. So there are huge opportunities in these areas. Then one more thing, utility of social stock exchanges. While giving this type of sessions, something that has come up, I wanted to share with you is regarding the why CSR and the social stock exchange are not going together. Because as you know, CSR is mandated from 2015, and it is limited to the local area in which the company has been working. So ideally, it is very difficult. But there is one suggestion which is around, is that the companies which accidentally fall in the category of CSR, for example, if they have profits of 5 crores and above, and it falls under this category of section 135, they may not be, small companies may not be having that infrastructure to have a proper CSR activity done in the company, or to have an assessment whether social impact is happening, and all these type of activities small companies may not be able to undertake. But the suggestion that has come up is, I don't know whether that will be accepted by the government or not, but the thing is, if these companies come up to the social stock exchange and make investments, that should be treated as a compliance under the CSR. So that linking has not happened, and maybe in future that may come up. Next slide. I thought of giving the eligibility and requirements of social impact assessor, those who are willing to take up this examination and become qualified for becoming a social impact assessor. This is the definition. So SEBI defines a social auditor as an individual registered with a self-regulatory organization under the purview of the Institute of Social Auditors of India or such other agency as may be specified by SEBI. I think Institute of Cost and Management Accounts also have a, I am not sure, separate institute for social audit. So the minimum requirement to be a qualified social auditor, an individual must qualify for a certification program conducted or conducted by the National Institute of Securities Management (NISM) and hold a valid certificate. Once you get that, once you pass the examination, you will get a certificate from NISM, and that can be with that certificate you can apply to this institute for obtaining membership. That is the procedure for becoming a social impact assessor. Eligibility, as I mentioned earlier, cost accountant, company secretary, chartered accountants, or postgraduates with 3 years experience in development sector, graduates with 6 years experience in development sector. These are the minimum eligibility for appearing for the examination. So if anybody in this group is interested, they can take up this assignment. And so that's all from my side. Thank you once again for giving this opportunity for addressing cost accountants. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So since we have requested our participants to share their queries, so we have received a few. So
Yeah.
the first one we can take up, sir.
Yeah.
Up to what extent there is a possibility for CMAs to work with other professionals when it comes to SSCs?
So CMAs are also at par with the company secretaries or chartered accountants. There is no differentiation being seen in that. Once you qualify for this social auditor, you can associate with other social auditors and form a firm so that you can take up these assignments of social auditors. I don't think there is any restriction in that. I'll have to check that. Associating with other, as a social auditor, you can have associate with other professionals.
Okay. So next question. So can you briefly share one of your experience in working in SSC's projects?
I have been directly involved in any projects. Actually, I qualified as a social auditor just in January only, 2024. I became a member. But we have one client has approached us where it is a complicated project. They are already having a trust which is into this social activities, but they want to have a trust for developing rural sports, training rural people for football. It's not rural sports. It is training rural children and making them ready for national levels. Plus, they have an idea of creating a proper infrastructure for football development. So what we have advised is we will keep these two things separate. Development of rural children in sports can be treated as a social activity and do that. The other infrastructure development, it is very difficult to consider as a social thing because a lot of revenue will come out of that. If you have a football stadium, you will have a lot of infrastructure. You can rent it out and earn money out of it. So that will definitely be a commercial activity. So we have advised by that like that. But forming a new trust is a challenge because of the minimum 3-year requirement. 3-year requirement is there, which they are addressing it. They are trying to transfer the existing trust to this activity so that that history can be that experience can be utilized as a experience in social sector. So that is the only activity that I have done now. But after 31st March, you will be required to have a lot of social audits coming in, maybe. So let us see.
Okay, so thank you. So next is SECs is of course a new concept in India. The
Yeah.
doubt here is the possibilities seen here will be sustainable or just a bubble.
I think this is a very sustainable model that India is having. As I mentioned earlier, we had 7 models, out of which 4 are not there now. That was kind of a matching mechanism. That if somebody comes with a project, if somebody else is interested in that, that will be matched, and that's the kind of platform that was there. But here it is not like that. We have all the infrastructure available in the other stock exchange ready. So I think this is the most sustainable model India is having.
Okay. So next one is also related to this one only. Is asking, can you save SSC activities for a professional, whether this is a breadwinning assignments?
That we cannot tell now because it's only in the very initial stages. So breadwinning, because it is already assigned with a social cost. I think there will be little bit limitations with regard to listing and all. You know,
Right.
we will not get money uh, as much we do for other listing and all.
Right.
If you go for other listing, equity or debt listing, you will get more money definitely because it is basically a social cost.
Right. So the next is, can you highlight on the ADR opportunities for the professionals?
What opportunity?
ADR opportunities.
ADR means
Abbreviation is not given here.
alternate dispute resolution.
Yeah,
Dispute resolution.
yeah,
Okay.
like
That I think immediately there won't be much, but it will be definitely coming up in maybe 4 or 5 years time when the system falls in place. Then since players are there, no, a lot of players are there in the field, then definitely ADR has opportunities.
Right. So the next one is that SSC activities. Is it only for practicing professionals like CMA, CS, or is there any piece of cake for CMAs in employment?
There is
Anything
no
for the
distinction made actually. People who are in employment can also help in all these activities.
okay,
They can also qualify as a social impact assessor and take up in-house certifications. They cannot do. An in-house person, I don't think they can take up certifications. That can be done by practicing professionals only.
right. So what is donation through mutual fund scheme?
Mutual fund scheme, what we have is there is no nothing has been listed under a social stock exchange yet, but things may come up where underlying here I could quote one instance. Currently, HDFC Asset Management Company has launched a HDFC Charity Fund for cancer care, which has social impact as one of the objectives. It invests money in underlying instruments and generates dividends, which will be which are meant for charity. So going forward, maybe this type of instruments will come in SSCs also.
Okay.
That's what I initially told. Only zero coupon, zero principal bonds have been listed now in social stock exchange.
Right, sir. So, sir, the last question, sir. Now, yeah, so listing function, as we all know, is a job of company secretaries. But in your presentation, you have mentioned about this opportunity even for CMAs. So can you please guide?
No, listing is not, this listing is not necessarily for CAs alone, because as a social impact assessor, it can be either chartered accountant, cost accountant, or company secretary. So very well they can help in fundraising, document preparation, hand holding them towards listing, because basic things are there. No, you are qualified. Once you qualify as a social impact assessor, you definitely will have a knowledge about all these things. So it's not a domain of CS alone. I don't think so.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yes. So now, sir, the one last question we have received. With our domain as a management accountant, what role really a CMA can play?
CMA, that's project preparing a project for the social enterprise. That areas, I think, so cost accountants can play a good role. Projects, finalization of projects, designing a project, all these things, you because social enterprises definitely will help professionals. They will not be having that kind of. That's why 30 lakh NPOs in India, 99% of them are not an organized kind of a thing. It is all in the unorganized sector. So for them, for formulating a project, making the basic documents for social stock exchange, where there all cost accountant can play a good role. Particularly, this project area will be a good area where cost accountants can perform. Okay.
Right, right, sir. So thanks a lot. So now
Thank you.
we are
Thank
now
you.
at the end of this session. So I will be now proposing the vote of thanks, sir. At the outset, I would like to convey my sincere thanks to our chairman of Sustainability Standard Board, CMA Dr. Ashish P. Thate, and other members of the board for all their guidance and motivation to undertake such activities for the members and students. And we are very grateful to our distinguished speaker, Mr. Shyam Kumar. It was a truly a knowledge enriching and interactive session wherein we covered the overview of social sector in Indian economy, the United Nations Sustainable Standard Goals and what are their challenges, and what is the need to augment social capital to fulfill these SDGs by 2030, and what are the opportunities available for CMAs. And you have very deeply in detail, you have covered the social stock exchange and what are the different players and stakeholders in the social development spectrum, and other related issues. I am very thankful to all the participants who attended this webinar, and I am sure that today's detailed and interactive discussion will immensely benefit you all. And I would like to mention that today we have covered this SSC from a professional's perspective, and during next month or so we will be taking up another webinar during this our Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam series to cover this SSCs from the exchange perspective. So one senior official who will be addressing you all to take up this session. So thank you all, and now we will be concluding this session by playing student anthem.
असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्युर्मामृतं
तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय
असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति।